Hello and welcome. All right, today we're going to be doing free code camp, reverse a string. No, that's not what we're doing. What are we doing? Find the longest word. Today we're going to be working on find the longest word in a string. All right, through free code camp. All right, it's one of their basic algorithm scripting challenges. So let's go in here and let's find free code camp. Find the largest or the longest word in a string. So there's going to be a bunch of things that we need to know. A lot of this we went over previously. The only new thing that we have is string.length. Okay, so before we even take a look at this, what does string.length do? String.length, all right, is pretty simple. You have a string, such as this word Mozilla. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 characters in it. And so if we say string.length, we know that string has a length of 7. So how do we use that? Well, we declare a variable with that string, and then we can use that later. So we had console log Mozilla is x.length. What is this? X is the variable here that is a string dot length. So that is 7 units long. And here you go. Mozilla is 7 code units long. Okay, something to note, the length of an empty string is 0. So here you have a variable for empty, and there's nothing inside, so its length is 0. Now, what else can we do with length? We also can use length on an array. Oh, excuse me. All right, we can use length on an array as well. What does length on an array do? Well, it tells you how many items are in the array. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4 items in this array. We have a variable with an array with 4 items. We say items.length, and we get 4. Pretty straightforward, right? All right, so how do we use all of that for this challenge? Well, remember, we're going to go back and we're going to be using the split. All right, so we can split at a certain spot here. And we're going to be using our for loops. Remember this format for our for loops that we used last time? We're going to be using that again. The var I equals 0, and then I is less than or less than and equal to something, and then I plus plus. So we're going to put all this stuff together to find the longest word in a string. All right. So let's give ourselves some room here. So if we take a look at this, what we have a argument or an argument, str, and that argument is going to be a string. Okay, so right now if we have str.length, we take the length, or we return the length of that string, we get 44. Okay, that's nice. What do we want to do? We don't want to know what the each individual, how many individual characters and spaces and things we have on there. What we want to know is just the longest word. And we happen to know that words are separated by spaces. So that'll help us split this into an array. So right off the bat, I'm going to create an array that has each individual word as a separate object in that array. So I'm just going to say var array, and this I'm going to set equal to my argument, right, that I'm going to split by the space. So since all of my arguments are going to be strings and sentences, they are going to be split by a space. And notice that none of our examples here have a period at the end, or else we would have to do something else to this, which we could always get into later on. But for right now, this will work just fine for what we have. So it's a string with no punctuation, so that's good. So now I have my array that I can do all sorts of array methods with, and I don't want to, well, I'll leave the return there for now. And right now it's still just going to return the length of the entire string. So I want to be able to iterate through my array. All right, so let's take a look at our for loops again. So how would I iterate through my array? Well, we know that the first position of an array is the 0th position. And if we iterate through the array, what we can do is we can just make sure that our array, all right, the length of that array is not exceeded here. And then we add 1 every time. Oh boy, that starts to sound a little foggy, doesn't it? So this is what it looks like. And then we're going to go back and say that one more time, and hopefully that makes sense to you. Now, what I need to do is I need to create another variable for a placeholder. I'm just going to call this longest. And this is going to be the longest word. And I'm going to set it to an empty string right now. Our longest is going to be an empty string, and that we're going to be using. I'll clean this up a little bit, make this look a little nicer. Okay. Delete. All right, so there's my var longest, and that's going to be, again, my placeholder for the longest word in our string. And we're going to go ahead, we're going to create our for loop. It's going to be var I. Now, what do we set var I equal to? Now, remember, we're going to be iterating through an array, so I want to do something to each item in an array. The first item in the array is the 0th position. That's why we're going to start with 0. And we want to keep iterating through the array for the number of items that are in the array, because after we get to the end of the array, we want to exit the for loop. So how can we use this? Well, do you remember that array.length back here? So we know that the array.length here is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 items in the array. If we start off with 0, this is 0th, 1st, 2nd, 3rd place. So what we can do is this. We can say our array, which is our ARR. So if we set I, all right, less than ARR dot length, right, to check. Now let's go back to our example here for our array.length. If we start off the 0th position and we do something to our stuff, and then we come back and we say I++, this would be 0, we do something to this, then we change I to 1. So this would go here. We'd go and do some stuff. Then I would be 2, and 2 would be less than 4, because we'd say items.length or array.length. And then we'd add 1, and we would get 3. And 3 is still less than 4. Okay, we'd be here, right? So we'd have 0, 1, 2, 3, do some stuff. And then by the time we say 4, we're out of stuff in the array. But 4 is not less than 4, so the for loop would be over. 4 and 4 homophones. Let's not get too far into that. Anyway, and so array.length, and now we can just say our standard I++. Let's do some stuff to each item of the array. So now we have a for loop that iterates through every item in an array. Right? So we're going to be using this format later on as well. So what can we do? Well, all we want to do is earlier on in the JavaScript, you learn about if statements, right? So all we want to say is that if the variable longest, all right, if the length of that variable longest is smaller than the length of the item in the array, so in the beginning, we would iterate through the 0th position here, which would be the, and the is 3, 1, 2, 3. 3, that would be the length. Is 3 longer than or bigger than nothing? Well, yes, it is. So longest would now be 3. Next, you would see the I++, so it would go to the first position in our array. So the first position in our array would be quick. And we want to say, is quick longer than the? Well, yes, it is. So how many letters is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So is 5 bigger than 3? Well, yes, it is. So then our new longest would then be 5, so on and so forth. So how do we say that with an if statement? So if our longest, which is we're going to use the string method, longest dot length. Okay, notice we start off with nothing. So longest dot length to start off with is going to be 0. All right. If that is less than our array, so here's going to be a little bit of a tricky thing here. Now array bracket I. So now this is going to be the position. Okay. Dot length. So if this statement is true, all right, if this statement is true, all we want to do is take this and set our longest equal to A or R. Okay. All we're doing is we're comparing the length. So let's kind of work through this. And what do we want to return at the end here? Well, we don't want to return str.length. We want to return longest.length. All right, so this should work, and then we'll go through. Storm that castle. Sweet. All right, so let's look at this here. So here we have our starting array. Okay, so we took our, we have this here, and we split this into an array. So we go from a string to an array, and we don't have any punctuation. So all we're left with is an array with just words and no punctuation. Good to go. Then we have a placeholder longest that has nothing in it, so it has a length of 0. Okay, so now here's our for loop. Now var I equals 0, okay, and is 0 less than array.length? Yes, it is. Our array.length is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 long. Okay, so our length of our array is actually 9. So 0 less than 9, yes it is. Let's go inside here. All right, so now we perform these actions here. This is going to be an if statement. So is longest.length, right now longest.length, longest is empty, so longest.length is 0. Is that less than ARR of the 0th position? Okay, the 0th position is here, that'd be the, all right, dot length, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so is 0 less than 3? Yes, it is. So let's set longest, all right, to a new string that is the word the. Okay, so now longest equals the. Now we're going to go on and I++. I++, now, so now I is 1. Is 1 less than 9? Yes, it is. Let's go in here. Now, longest.length. Okay, what's longest.length? Remember, longest was the word the now. So you get 3. Is 3 less than ARR in the first position length? So the first position is here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So is 3 less than 5? Well, yes, it is. So now longest is going to equal ARR in the first position or quick. So now longest equals quick. Okay, and we're going to do this and iterate through the entire array. So now I know that I've been pointing at a string here, but our array is just my string broken up by the spaces. So that's why I'm just pointing at this. So hopefully it's not too confusing. Now, as you can see at the end, once we iterate through the entire array, we should be left with just the longest word, and we're just going to return the length of that longest word, and we get 6. All right, so what is the longest word? 6 would be jumped. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so hopefully that worked out well for you. If you like I said before, if you have any questions, you could just comment, let me know. Or if you're in my class, you could just come up and ask me. It's probably the easiest way to do it, right? All righty, so hopefully that was helpful. I will stop this. And again, I will see you next time when we will be looking at the next set of challenges for this.